Now, this week's Best Bets with Hunter McCann.
Best Bets is back. You see it there. There's the money. We'd like to make it rain for you this weekend. Hard to believe we're already in week 7 of college football.
Man, it moves quickly. I mean, week 7 college football, week 6 in the NFL, and it just keeps flying at you. I mean, we were counting down, getting down to this point, and now we're almost 2 months into football. But been a pretty good time so far. Let's take a look back at last week's full picks, though. Michael was right. Texas is in fact not back. We both thought they would win, but I thought Texas would cover in the game. Instead, Oklahoma flexed their muscle and escaped the Red River rivalry with a dub. UNC was a sweat-free win as they defeated Syracuse by 33 points. Now, the next one, I will take on the chin. It's probably the worst bet I've ever given. Hindsight's 2020, right? Kentucky got pummeled by Georgia, and they did not cover 14.5 points, losing to the Bulldogs by 38 points. Now, over in the NFL, we got our first push of the season. The Texans led late, but a field goal, as time expired, gave the Falcons a 2-point win over Houston. So we get our money back at least, but now it was never a doubt for the next game. Right. The Giants stink. We talked about it last week. They're just not a good football team. So the Dolphins handled business in Miami, covering 9.5. And the Rams kept it close all game like I thought they would, but a late touchdown from the Eagles pulled the spread just out of reach. So didn't do too terribly last week.
Just want to add, I did like Georgia and Kentucky.
I know. You did. You were right about both those games. So
let's forget about last week. Let's move on to this week. This is a really good weekend for college football. Jam-packed. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Florida State Seminoles. LSU fans may not like the Florida State Seminoles, but I think they are definitely a talented football team, and they will be able to win me some money this year, and that's really all I care about. Florida State's matched up this weekend against the Syracuse Orange, the same Syracuse team that just got killed by the North Carolina Tar Heels. They're back on the road, heading into Tallahassee, and Syracuse will try to open up the run game like they have in previous matchups this year. But I think they're going to struggle against a very, very solid Seminole front that has kept teams at bay on the ground.
They're on the road. 2 letdown games in a row for the Orange, losing, as you said, to Clemson and to UNC.
Yep.
You think there's any chance they're going to bounce back here?
I mean, that's why the game's played, right? It's always possible, but I'm going to go with no. I think this FSU team is just extremely elite. They have better ball players, better playmakers in general, and they're going to show their dominance this weekend. Florida State's going to put a whooping on the Orange, really. They're going to pour salt on a wound that has been ripped open after, like you mentioned, those 2 big letdown wins the past 2 weeks. Florida State just has the bigger and better athletes. And even with a line this big, I think the Seminoles are in the perfect position to cover at home and to cover this line with ease, just like UNC did last week. Florida State minus 17.5.
I like it a lot, especially because they're at home and they look so dominant this season.
They really do.
Against, as you said, the 2 letdown games, 2 weeks in a row. You think it's going to be lopsided as well?
I do. I really believe that just like last week when I talked about UNC being able to put up a whooping on Syracuse, I think Florida State's even a better team than UNC is. I don't see why they can't put up 25, 30 more points than the Syracuse Orange.
I like it. What's next?
All right, 2 of the top offenses in the country are going to go head-to-head tomorrow in a top 10 matchup. The 8th-ranked Oregon Ducks are on the road to play the 7th-ranked Washington Huskies. Now, like I said, these offenses are extremely good. Washington, backed by their quarterback, Michael Penix, will air the ball out tomorrow against the Ducks. But on the other end of the other side of the ball is Bo Nix, who's also a leader and among the nation's best in all passing metrics. I think this game will be very close, but neither team's defensive secondary really gave me a reason to pick either side that gives you a clear winner. I truly don't care. I think it's a coin flip. Either of these teams could win the game, but I think a lot of points are going to be scored in either scenario. So give me the over of this game, over 67.5 points.
That kind of seems low, doesn't it?
I think this is going to be an instant classic. I think that both these teams with these 2 caliber quarterbacks that are already being discussed in the Heisman conversation, they're going to go at it hard and go at it quick. I think points are going to be scored very quickly in this game, and it'll stay very close. Probably the upper 30s for both teams where we see the final, and you'll clear that 67.5 points.
Potentially whoever has the ball last wins.
I think that's the case.
I like the Ducks. All right.
I lean that way too.
NFL pick last week on Best Bets won very easily. The Giants just aren't a very good football team.
They're not. They're just not a very good football team. And this week, once again, I got a good football team playing just not a very good football team. They're just not as bad as the Giants, though. The San Francisco 49ers just embarrassed the Dallas Cowboys last weekend on primetime. Now this weekend, they head on the road to play the Cleveland Browns. a team that has struggled to find their identity so far this year. And now they are without their starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, after he suffered a shoulder injury 3 weeks ago against the Tennessee Titans.
So with Deshaun being out, that's the biggest reason why you're here?
I wouldn't say it's the biggest reason, but it's a very good reason. I mean, without your starting quarterback, a guy you're paying millions of dollars, it puts you in a little bit of a rough space. But like I said, this team's just not very good. Yesterday they announced that he wouldn't be playing in the game, and the line moved a little bit. But I just think the 49ers are just a more complete team. They're arguably one of the best teams in the NFL. They have one of the best running backs, one of the best defenses, one of the best receiving cores, and a solid guy under center. And it's funny, though, like the guy under center is Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant from last year, right? And I say he's the weakest link. The guy hasn't lost a football game during the regular season. He's now 10-0 through the last two seasons starting a football game. Guy's really impressive. So give me the best team in the NFC to get it done on the road. Now, caution. Like I said, this line has moved around a lot. It opened at the beginning of the week at 3.5 points. It moved quickly to 6.5. And then I've seen it the past 24 hours jump between 6.5 and 9.5, depending on what book you're buying. Some people think some books think Deshaun holds a little bit more weight being out. Some think it's not going to matter as much. So shop around a little bit if you're nervous about the lines. Buy yourself down to where I got it, -6.5. But to be honest with you, I still think this 49ers team could cover 9.5 if you absolutely took that line.
You think they'd cover 9.5? I'd be more confident with 6.5.
I think 6.5. I'm happy I got it there. I think they do cover a touchdown, but they really could blow out the Browns on the road this week. All right, now let's go through these one more time. Florida State at home to dismantle the Syracuse Orange, covering 17.5 points. Oregon and Washington in an instant classic, because I smell high-scoring shootout, over 67.5. And lastly, one of the best teams in the National Football League to go into the doghouse of Cleveland and cover 6.5 points.
First week, we've agreed on everything.
I know, right?
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. We're going to see lots of check marks next week. 6-0 is coming.
I can feel 6-0. Another round of solid picks for you.
Can't wait. Yeah, if you want to check them out, you can head over to WBRZ.com for that full slate. Like you mentioned, 3 more picks. And if you want a detailed analysis of those 3 bets, tune into Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning from 10 to noon as I co-host a show live from the Burge Casino and Hotel. I'll break down those other bets and to help you earn some extra cash this weekend. All right, like I said, I'm really hoping next week 6-0. Got lots of check marks. We'll be pointing all those next week. I'm feeling pretty confident.
I hope so, too. He's Hunter McCann. I'm Michael Shingleton. He's back every Friday with the best bets in both college football and the National Football League.